What's up, everyone, and welcome to another Rust Pro Series video. I'm Gneissish, and today we are talking cave defense or on-call defensive power. One of the issues with cave bases is that it can be difficult to run charging lines down to your batteries, whether that be because of your proximity to the surface, other players, or if you're like me and you don't like to advertise that you're down there. Whatever your reasoning is, this is an excellent alternative to the standard setup that allows you to have on-call defensive standby power for many days. That's only activated when a raider is present. So I've got two versions of this, a single battery and a dual battery. I've also got a cave entrance mock-up here that I'll show you. We'll hook that up to the dual battery so you can see how this would work in real time. And then each of these examples here has 5 turrets, the same one twice, 5 turrets that's run off that branch there. The second one runs off this XOR switch or OR switch if you chose that. To that branch and powers these 5 turrets. On the single side, it comes off this branch out of this branch switch that runs to this branch and powers these 5. If you want to know more about how that kind of stuff works, check out my video on turrets. And then last, you'll notice that these batteries, all of them have a power in coming in, a charge line coming in. That's just for this tutorial only. That's just to show you the charge time that you would get by preventing this battery from ever losing any of its capacity. It lets me show you how much charge is there. The system here is designed to not require a power in. You don't have to have a charging line coming in. So it also assumes that you have some way of charging these batteries however you prefer. I build little pre-rated bases on the surface, and I put these in airlocks, and I just trickle charge them, and when they're ready, I bring them down to the base or to the cave base and just have them ready to swap over when needed. So however you do that, generators, surface stuff, whatever you want. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. The single battery version is, of course, the easiest version. You'll need a primary battery for the base itself. In this case, I'm using a large battery. A medium battery would just give you less time on your defense system once it was activated, so your choice. You're also going to need a standby battery, whether that's medium or large is up to you. You just get a different length of standby time. I'll talk about that. And then you just have to have whatever your system is. In this case, I'm using 5 turrets. The more load you put on your primary battery, the less time you're going to have for it to run, obviously. So I find 5 turrets to be a good number. That's 5 turrets, 3 switches, so 53. I'm going to set this to 53 volts here, like so. And then I just, from this blocker, the power out of that blocker runs to the power in of this branch switch here. You could put a switch in line here and account for that here and make that 54. But you don't really need a switch when the system's always in standby. That means you can get to those turrets and swap things out if you want while it's in standby. So I'm going to go ahead and run from the power out of this battery. I'm going to run that to the power in of this blocker over here, like so. And that is, of course, predictably going to turn on our turrets because I set this branch up. And so what I'm going to do here is, and this is how this works, I'm going to build a twig wall. Now, this would be at the entrance of your base. We'll talk about that in more detail at the end. So either a half twig or a full twig, however you want to do this. But basically, a twig that it will be broken during a raid, whether it be splash damage, or in my case, I use shotgun traps and flame turrets, but we'll talk about that. I'm going to place a branch on the inside of that twig. This will be the base side of the twig. And I'm just going to try to avoid these holes so that no one sees what I'm doing. That's up to you, of course. And we'll start by using the medium battery as the standby battery. So from the power out of that battery, I'm just going to run that to the input on this branch. And then I'm going to choose either one of these outputs. It does not matter. And I'm going to run that to the block pass-through on the blocker over here. And so what that's going to do is that's going to activate the blocker, which is going to take everything this battery is hooked to out of the circuit. And you'll see that it has an active usage of 0. And that's the important part here, is that this battery with an active usage of 0 is not going to drain. It'll just sit here and at its 24,000 rust watt minutes until it's been activated by the release of this blocker. And this medium battery here, by running this branch and blocking that blocker, only has an active usage of 2, which means that it will, without any charging input, it will run this blocker. It'll keep it blocked for 3.1 days. And that's a really, really long time. So that gives you 3 days to have either recharge this or have another one ready, standing by to swap this line over to keep it blocked. But that's 3 days with a medium battery. And so what happens is someone comes in my case, the shotgun trap blows this wall out, or they blow it up with splash damage, whatever happens. The wall gets destroyed during the raid immediately. that unblocks this blocker by releasing this standby battery from the blocker, and your defense system comes online. The same thing is true with a large battery. If I hook up the large battery's output, again, no power in needed, like so. The build is exactly the same. I'm just going to run this line. Careful not to run it across these holes if you don't want people to see it. Pick either of the outputs of your branch switch, doesn't matter which. And again, I'm going to run that straight to the block pass-through on this blocker like this. That's going to block the system. Importantly, active usage 0. And this large battery has an active usage, again, just like this, as 2, but being a large battery, that gives you 200 hours, which is 8.3 days. So that's over a week that this large battery can keep this system blocked and on standby. And so you can set this up the way I do, where I set this up and I can run by this twig all day because the shotgun trap or flame turret's not going to target me as an authorized player, but it will target through twig a non-authorized player. So this is in my opinion, the best way to do this. It gets broken. There you go. Same thing. System gets activated. This battery will run this for 7 hours and 24 minutes and 26 seconds until it dies. And so that's 7 hours of base defense that a raider has to deal with until this dies. All right, so that's how you do that. I'm going to unhook this, and now we're going to do the dual battery setup, which is, in my opinion, the better of the two because it gives you over 14 hours of defensive power for your base without any charging inputs. Okay, so in this one, again, you're going to need 2 batteries. 2 large batteries is the example. 2 medium batteries will do the same. It'll just give you a little less time on your run time. And then, of course, again, standby batteries, exact same setup. No difference here. And so let's just, and then a few more wiring requirements here, but not too bad. And so to do this, you're going to need 3 blockers this time, an XOR switch, 2 XOR switches, excuse me, or 2 OR switches, or a combination, it doesn't matter. As of November 3rd, 2022, this has now been patched where the XOR switch does require power now. So no more freebie XOR switch for us. You're going to need a splitter and a branch. And so each battery, I'm just going to color code the left battery. The first primary battery will be the green battery. The secondary backup battery or second battery in the chain will be the blue battery. And so the green line will be on this side, the blue line will be on this side, and I'll show you how that works. So I'm going to start by running. So before we hook the batteries up, we'll just build up the 2 sides, and then we'll hook the battery. So the green line starts by the power out of this blocker here, running to the power in of this branch. You're going to run the branch out of that to any of the 2 sides of this XOR or OR switch, depending on what you use. You're going to run the power out of this branch to the input on this splitter here. Choose any of the 3 outputs of that splitter, and you're going to run one of them to the block pass-through on the second blocker in the blue side chain. And then you're going to run any of the other 2, pick one, run that to either of the inputs on the bottom XOR or OR switch, depending on what you choose. And then the output of that XOR or OR switch is going to run to the block pass-through on the remaining blocker here of the first of the 2 in the blue chain. For that one, you're just going to run the line out from the power out of the blocker to the power in of the second blocker. Power out of that second blocker is going to run to whichever input you didn't use on this top XOR or OR switch. At this point, you can set your branch to whatever your system requires. In this case, again, it's 5 turrets, 3 switches, that's 53, but this XOR switch now is not free, so we have to count for that. So we're gonna set this to 54, like this, and then you're good. You don't care because this battery is definitely gonna output enough coming out of this output to deal with this stuff. All this does is keep the second battery out of the system until this first battery dies, and you're ready to hook things up. So to hook the batteries up, you're going to run, we'll do the green one first here. I'm gonna run that out here. And I'm gonna run this to the power in of this first blocker on the green side, just like this. And of course, predictably, it's gonna turn on our turrets because we've set everything up. I'm gonna hook the blue battery output. I'm gonna run that over to the input on the second blocker over here. That's the blue battery's input, like so. That's not gonna do anything because this first battery is keeping this side blocked. And the reason we have this XOR switch or OR switch down here is because we have to have some way to keep both of these blocked. That's why I chose this. So all that does is keep this battery out of the loop. And so what you'll see is the first battery has an active usage of 59, which gives it 7 hours and 46 minutes. The second battery has an active usage of 0 because the first battery is keeping it out of the loop. And we'll explain that here in the end. So again, just like before, I have my 2 standby batteries. I'm going to do the medium one first. If I set up my twig here, just like before, set a branch up on that twig, we'll go ahead and run from the output of this medium battery as our standby battery this time to this branch here, and I'm going to run either of the 2 outputs. It doesn't matter which one. The first one that you choose, whatever, one of those is going to go to the block pass-through on this first blocker on the green side. That's going to block off the green battery, and by the design, now the blue battery has kicked in, but we're going to take care of that here in a second. The other output, in this case the power output, but whatever one you didn't use the first time, you're going to run that to the remaining input available on the XOR switch or OR switch, depending on what you put there, like so. That is going to take both batteries out of the system. So now each of these batteries has an active usage of 0, which is what we want. The medium battery now has an active usage of 4, which is twice as much as before, which gives you 1.6 days of standby power. So you would have to charge this or swap it with a charged one within 1.6 days. Same exact thing happens. This gets broken and it releases that battery, which releases the blockers. And the way this works is that the primary battery here starts first at 7 hours and 46 minutes. Once that runs out, we can simulate that by just disconnecting it. It's going to release the second battery, which now takes over for an additional 7 hours and change. So you get 14 plus hours of power to run your defense systems in your cave base until this whole thing shuts down, which is awesome. So same exact thing. We'll just complete this. You set up your twig, set up your branch switch or whatever you're using. And I'm going to, from the large battery this time, I'm gonna run that over. It's the same exact setup. Just pop this up here, charge, put it into there. Pick any of the 2 outputs, it doesn't matter which one. Run one of them over to the block pass-through on the green line blocker right here. And then, that was a terrible run. And then I'm gonna run the second one, whatever one I didn't use, to, again, the remaining input on the XOR or OR switch that you have over here like this. And there you go, the system's now in full standby. It will remain in standby, again with an active usage of 4, so twice as much as before. That gives you 4.1 days of standby power with a large battery, keeping these at active usage of 0 and out of the system, ready to go. When a raider comes in, this gets destroyed, turns everything on, just like before. Once this battery dies, again, pops on the second battery, another 7 hours, so 14 hours total, a little more than that. And that's all you gotta do. So I'm just gonna hook this back up, and that is dual battery. And so the last thing we're gonna do here is I'm going to just show you how I would do this. I've got this mock cave entrance over here. And let's see, I think what I'll do is I will go ahead and just unhook both these batteries for a second this way, just so that we can keep those down. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna steal one of these turrets off of here, and I'm gonna just unhook this and run this into here, terribly down here, into here, and hook up to this turret so you can see it turn on inside here. We still have our 5 turrets, it's just that one of them is now inside here. And what I've got here is a mock cave entrance, and inside this door I've got this setup here where I've got a shotgun trap and sort of a peek down setup that from the inside of the base I can get to. And the reason I do that is that way, if this is say the inside of your base back here, I can set up that twig right here, and I can set this switch on here. And all I have to do is run just like I did before. And we'll just do this in some terrible way. I'm gonna run that over here, and I'm gonna connect that to, we'll just do the large battery this time, just because that's what I would do. So I'm gonna hook this up to the large battery like so, and then I'm going to hook each of these 2 outputs. Again, it does not matter which one you choose. I'm just gonna run these, I normally do this in black and just sort of, I'm gonna run one of them over to the input again on this first blocker here. And then I'm gonna run the second one to the remaining available input on the XOR switch or OR switch, depending on what you chose. It's the same thing I did. I'm just doing it from the actual way I would do it. There you go. And then I can go ahead and hook these batteries back up. Let's hook this green one up here. We'll hook this blue one up here. So now, just like I had before, I've got this battery has 4 active usage, which means I have 4.1 days based on this setup. Everything is at 0 active usage here. So these are on standby. The system is ready. And I'm going to go ahead and just deauthorize myself from this TC. And so let's say someone raided your base, they blow into your first door, and what happens is they come in, that happens, breaks that releases the system, and there it goes. It turns on, plus the one in there. And that's all it is, folks. This is an excellent way. You know, there's multiple ways that you can do this. The shotgun trap's a great way. You can do the exact same thing I did here using a flame turret. You could also just have an open frame here and have a twig wall that they're forced to break coming in. However you want to do it, you just have to destroy that branch switch that keeps this system blocked. So, and that, folks, is all I've got. If you have any questions, you can leave them in the comments. Otherwise, you can get me on my Discord. See you later.